Hello and welcome back inside the Parc Fermé for podcast 851. That's right. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
You know what I need you to do.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly what I need you to do. Tonight, for your kind consideration, we're going to cover Formula One news that's happened in this summer break. And let me tell you, it's a little thin, but that's okay. There's a couple juicy parts. We're going to get to those. We're going to cover those. We're going to cover all of it. All the news that's fit to, quibble about on a Formula One podcast after 900 episodes. But before doing that, I have to introduce my co-host. You might know her as the lady with the cats. And you would be correct. She is a lady with cats. Literally right now, with cats. You know her. You love her. The lovely, the redoubtable Grace! Grace, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Todd. Although Cords.
Is that Ziggy?
Yeah, it's Ziggy. Who else would it be? You know?
Yeah.
She always thinks that this is her time. But yeah, Cords and cats don't match. Don't.
Yeah,
mix.
I know.
So
yeah.
It's always a precarious situation we got going on here.
I know. I have to shut the door because Cords and Australian Shepherds don't mix either. They just blow right through them.
That's right.
Yeah.
If one of them gets the Zoomies, you're done. Your whole production is over.
Yeah. I mean, everything in the house comes to a standstill when you got the Zoomies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, cats get Zoomies, but it's just loud. It just sounds like a herd of horses.
Yeah.
But
This is like
not
50-pound Zoomies running around. I mean, this will put you on the ground if you get in the way. You know.
Yeah. My cousin has a Great Dane. You just like any small children nearby, you just pick her up, because we're all going to
pick everything up. Pick everything up.
We're all just, if you come in contact with Daphne, we're all getting knocked over. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Grab
Oh,
the baby.
my. It is, what is it? It is a Formula One race this week. So there is that, right?
I don't know. Is there? I don't know.
Yeah,
it feels like forever.
I don't know. I thought the season was over for all I know.
I
don't know.
I just keep showing up every Monday on Zoom until Paul shows up. And I'm like, oh, it's not my week. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Paul's busy over racing and doing stuff,
Gosh.
Poor guy.
What did I just
crazy. Say? So we're going to cover some news. I got some news to cover this week. I thought maybe we could, just spice things up this week and talk about what Paul might say is controversy.
Oh,
right?
that's what the off season and summer break is all for, right? I mean,
it is. Do people from Kent say controversy?
I don't know. I thought all Brits said controversy.
I think they probably do.
All right.
But as Paul reminds me, not all Brits say Monaco.
I don't think any of them do. Just we say that to mock them.
I think the old school Brits do.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not the
maybe
not
old
the young
school,
hip crowd.
English World War II movie kind of,
Yeah. Like the Brits that were there for the advent of the radar, right?
Correct, right.
Yes,
Or some sort of John Le Cage spy novel, right? Like
Yes. Came out from the cold.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, I've read that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yes, I read that a long time ago.
Of which is a movie that I've watched many times. I still feel like I don't really know what's going on, but
yeah, I just kind of
easier.
Yeah, it's got Colin Firth in it, so
Yeah. So anyway, but that's the kind of genre that says Monaco. I don't know that people now say Monaco.
Monaco. Yes. So apologies to all my friends in Kent. I'm sure you don't say that.
It's fine. I mean, I guess when I go to Kent, I'll be proven wrong.
I know. If I went to the UK, I'd make a beeline for Scotland, because that's my heritage. And then I always wanted to go to Cornwall and on the West Coast. And I think I'd be at home there being a guy from Missouri, the whole rural feel of it and everything. But I seem to talk about Kent the most,
Well, that's Charsley's fault. But
it is Charsley's fault.
I mean, I think the other thing, too, is that, you could tour all of the UK and it's still like, the size of Montana or something, right? Like
I know. Yeah.
In comparison, you could do it in a,
Yeah.
Your trips from your house to Atlanta are longer
than
driving from, Ireland to the tip of the,
We got a meeting. I work for a Belgian company, but the HQ here in the States is in Atlanta. And so you got a meeting. I spend 6 hours in an airport and rental car lines, or I can drive it, Nate. I'll just drive it. That
Yeah,
way I
that's-
can stop at Buc-ee's and Love's and do whatever I want to do, right? And
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. Drive 8 hours, then no big deal for
Right.
somebody in the Midwest. It's not a big deal. But, you know, you talk to my British friends and they're like, oh my gosh, I got on the M whatever and I drove 4 hours to get all the way down there. It's like 4 hours, that's going across the state of Missouri. It's not a big deal. You know?
I mean, so when I was in college, I took German, and that was one of the things that our German TA was just like, because Pennsylvania, right? Also, like from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia is like 4 hours, right?
Yeah, right.
I used to get to one end of the state to the other, and his mind was just blown that he was like, you're going home for Thanksgiving, which is a 4 days, right? You're gonna go home. You're gonna drive, 4 hours to go home, 6 hours to go home, and come back. He's like, I'd be in 3 different countries if I was
know.
at home and did that, right? Like, so I think it's just like this different perspective of like,
I know.
yeah.
I was talking to one of my Belgian colleagues in a meeting, and I said that I drove to Atlanta for the last meeting in February or whatever it was. And he said, well, how far is it? And I said, hey, depends if you stop 8.5 hours. He goes, gosh, if I did that, I'd be in the Mediterranean.
Exactly. Like, I just think that's why when people, yes, Americans aren't well traveled necessarily, but our country is ginormous.
It's
so,
pretty big. Yeah.
there are plenty of
pretty big.
places within the ginormous country I live in that I'm still like, oh, that's on my bucket list. Let alone,
Yeah, I know. There's lots
you
of
know,
places
that's
I'd love
one.
to see.
So,
I've seen just about every state except the upper Northeast, like Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. I've not been up there. And that's one place I'd like to go.
There you
So,
go. Maine is nice.
yeah, that's what I hear. I heard it's a,
Bar Harbor.
yeah, that's right. That's right, Bar Harbor. Let's talk about Formula One. Everybody's already tuned out. Stop talking about all this crap. We don't care. I don't want to
know what?
hear it.
Get to the show!
This is the show.
This is the show.
It's our summer break too, people.
It is our summer break.
As the end
Everybody
of summer
deserves
happens,
one.
school starts again.
That's right.
I
Think
don't
of
know
all
what
the
happened.
podcasts Grace has had to work through, and this is her time for a summer break to just talk nonsense. So that's
Yeah,
what we're
so
doing.
calm down, people.
Everybody calm down. It's okay.
You'll
It's
get
gonna
to
be
your
all
real
right.
show in a
We're going to
week.
get to the Formula One news right now.
You know what? I blame Formula One. If they had more news for us to cover in the off season,
There you go.
you wouldn't have let me ramble for as long. So
No,
I blame
we
them.
did. I'd started. I just say welcome, Grace, and then we'd have been this just in Formula One news. We'd have been right into it right there.
I blame Dominicali. Square.
Yeah, me
Have
too.
more news.
Speaking of, can we talk about him? We are going to talk about him.
Oh, of course. It's been like 3 weeks, so it seems
How
right.
apropos. We're going to start off with a little Dominicali talk.
There you go.
Yeah, no, we're not. Second story, sorry. So first we're going to talk about rookies, folks. Rookies in Formula One. So I was flipping through the news, or as I should rightfully say, the lack of news during the summer break, and leave it to the ever brilliant and effervescent Adam Cooper to have an interesting piece that he wrote over at Auto Sport. And he wrote it. It's about the rookies. And so, we've discussed before about letting rookies race in the sprint races. Maybe wouldn't that be fun, right? Or maybe there's just 10 cars and the reserve driver for each team drives that car, in the sprint race, and the team gets championship points or whatever. And we thought, well, that might be kind of fun and all that. But and it would give him more seat time and more practice sessions and stuff like that. And and that's what actually F1 kind of decided to do is to put him in, or at least mandate for these free practices instead of sprint, of course. So Formula One said, hey, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to mandate that your reserve driver, your rookies, each team will run a rookie in a practice session sometime during the season, right?
Okay.
So that's what we're going to do. So sometime during the season, we're going to run a practice session. It's got to be a rookie. Fair enough. It's a good idea. The issue is only a few teams have ran rookies so far. Actually, as Adam Cooper points out, there's still 17 slots remaining to be satisfied amongst the teams, and there's only 10 races left, right?
Good. Great.
And Adam even goes further. He points out that the very important fact about the 10 remaining races that 3 of them are sprint weekends with only one FP1 session leading straight to quali. And I would doubt we're going to see any rookies running that session. So now we're down to 7 races left and 17 slots to be filled. Now, but I do think it's a good idea to give the rookies a little seat time and some FP1s. And the interesting thing about that is that if you remember at the beginning of the season, first race weekend, Oscar Piastri, your boy at McLaren, he was a rookie, Nick DeVries at AlphaTauri, and Logan Sargent. The first time they ran during the season, that qualified those 3 teams for running a rookie, right?
Right.
So that all worked out great for them. So Williams, AlphaTauri, McLaren all satisfied their regulatory obligation to run a rookie. Mercedes has confirmed that they're going to run Frederick Vesti for Mexico. Okay. The other teams have yet to announce their intentions. So I got to thinking, well, if Mercedes picked Mexico, then of the 7 remaining races, that's got to be the right one to pick, right? Because Mercedes didn't do things in half measures. So they logically picked probably the best track to do the rookie run at in Mexico. And I suspect there will be several other teams that will follow, given that F2 drivers are typically not used on stacked weekends, meaning when there's an F1 race and an F2 race at the same race weekend, a doubleheader, so to speak. So on a doubleheader stacked location like that, they wouldn't do it. And a few tracks have tire testing compounds that they're going to be running, and they wouldn't want rookies on those test tires if they could get the actual drivers. So the rookies are going to be sprinkled over the least hectic race weekends or even complex tracks that could get them in trouble pretty quick. And this means, as Mercedes is chosen, as Mexico, and I'm thinking possibly Abu Dhabi, and Abu Dhabi may make sense because then it is a stacked weekend, but after the week after the season ends, they do have that rookie test. So it would make sense that they're
already there.
Yeah. Right.
And young driver Fernando Alonso. Yes. You're already there.
Yeah. Keep an eye on that young man. He might do something.
I've heard some good things about him.
Have you? Yeah, I have too. I heard he's a potential champion in the making, that Fernando Alonso.
Seems pretty good.
Somebody in Perth is listening to this for the first time saying, Alonso is a champion, you moron. Yes, I know. I know he is. It's humor.
But I'm not the one that let him run in the young driver race,
No.
4 seasons ago, whatever.
But he was a rookie, technically, right?
Yeah, so I didn't make that decision. So who am I not to mock the fact that, at the time he's like 38 and he's the new rider. Yeah.
The new guy, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So that's going to be interesting. So what do you think about all that, Grace?
Why did they wait so long? Is there any penalty? Like, what happens if they don't run a rookie?
Well, I would imagine there's some sort of, punitive move by the FIA, I would imagine.
Because it seems like it should have already happened. Okay. So thinking about that, like putting on my, my team principal hat, right? So I get it. You don't want to put it in the beginning because you're still trying to sort things out.
Yep.
Right? So you don't want it in your first couple races. And so you want to push it back further. So this just seems really late if you have to run somebody. I don't know why they waited so long.
I mean, if Red Bull didn't pull it off, Christian could just say, well, we were going to run a rookie, but he was busy doing catering.
That's right. I just think
that was weak.
Young
that was
driver,
weak. I know.
Young driver Adrian Newey. I just think that
Young driver Adrian Newey.
It just seems like a lot of teams, but I guess they could all, but that's the thing too, is they could all just wait. You could just have everybody at Abu Dhabi, except for, the 3 teams you've mentioned run, their rookies, and Abu Dhabi P1 would really be just,
right.
Breakfast. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of things to balance because you're right. If you're testing your tires, you want consistency, right? That's how you're going to find how the tires work. So you want your veteran driver. You don't want a new guy doing that. So
you do.
So it'll be interesting to see where they sprinkle them in, as you said, in these last remaining races.
Yeah. It's I mean, in one side, I think it's probably a pretty easy decision whether it's Mexico or Abu Dhabi in that case, because you'd have tire testing and all that. But yeah, I'd be interested to see where they do it and who they choose, right?
Well, I mean, you're right. That's probably the bigger.
Yeah.
That's the more interesting story.
Yeah.
Especially for a team that has 2 drivers and like Mercedes, right? They have 2 drivers. They have they don't need who are they testing, right? That's what's more interesting.
Yeah.
Same thing with Red
It's always interesting to see who they give some seat time to and kind of what they're looking at,
Yeah, and
there was that
pretty
one
sure-
time Mercedes, had Nick DeVries. Ooh, too soon.
Well,
Don't you worry. He's going to Harvard and he's studying negotiation, Grace.
I know, right? It'll be
Coming
fine.
back with mad negotiating skills. He's going to get himself a ride and everything's going to be all right.
It's
gonna be
It's
fun.
not.
Probably not.
Apparently, he's not very well liked, but what do I know? Also, the
News to me.
I can only report what I read. What do I know? I don't know them. As people like to point out, I don't know these people, but seems not to be well liked. But anyway, also the Mercedes driver when you started down, I am definitely going to call that kid Frederick Vasseur. That just rolls right off the tongue. I know of nobody else named Frederick, and his name kind of like just to look at it, I'm like, well, that's going to happen now. I can see that happening.
Yeah, instead of Frederick Vesti, it's going to be
Frederick Vasseur. You didn't know? You didn't know he was a rookie?
Frederick Vasseur, the rookie.
That's right.
I hear Frederick's making a play for a few people. We'll get into that later, though.
Okay. I'm sure he is. That's his job, right?
It is his job.
If you're not making I mean, it's kind of like I'm always looking for a job. If you're not always looking for a job, what are you doing, right? So you always got to keep your ear to the ground. So
and
of
it's
course
like
he's always trying to pick people
It's
up.
like the other rumor, that Matteo Binotto going to Alpine.
I just love him showing up everywhere. Like he has been associated with every team possible, but Alpine?
Matteo Binotto going to Gresini.
Yeah, sure. He could do bikes.
Why not?
If Davide can come over here, he can go over there.
He can go over there. That's right.
I mean,
why couldn't he?
He'd be fine.
He's a racer at heart.
There's like 12 Ducati teams. I'm sure one of them could take him,
Yes, he'd fit right in at Gresini.
Yeah.
Why not?
I just think that would be. Yeah, I mean, I think we all just now miss him. Like we all just started warming up to Binotto, and then Ferrari fired him, and so now it's like, oh, he's gonna fit somewhere. And
that's true.
Renault/Alpine is always a great place to put the somebody, right? Like
it is. What are we gonna do with Alonso? Let's put him at Alpine.
Yeah, we got to keep Drive to Survive going somehow. We'll just keep changing the team principle.
We need the
at
drama.
Alpine. Yeah, what are they going to do?
None of this would have happened if Drive to Survive didn't exist, but because it does, they've got to do some draconian drama. It's like a soap opera now, I got an idea. What if Alpine fired everybody? Ooh, great idea. Let's do that.
It could only be better. I mean, it only has up to go.
Alain Prost, gone. Pat Fry, gone.
Yeah.
Otmar Snapner, gone.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Alan Permain, longtime friend. Alan Permain, gone.
That may be the one that's the most nuts.
That one hurts.
Yeah.
Yep, that one hurts.
For sure.
Yeah, all kinds of people. It's well, it's the dawn of a new era over at Alpine. We'll see how they do with that. Now, in other news, this is an interesting story that when it originally broke a month or two ago, I didn't really think it had much legs to it because of how the FIA regulations are written over contestation of a result.
Contestation? That's a great word.
Ready for restitution for something that you feel you are deserving of.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it had legs, but damn it, it's got legs. And it's continuing to crawl, at least, if not trot. So this is the deal. Massa, Felipe Massa, long-time former F1 driver and all-around nice guy. I've met Felipe and interviewed him several times. Really nice guy. He is. He has a legal team who is seeking restitution and compensation for the 2008 World Championship, in which he lost by 1 point.
Yes.
Yes. According to Reuters, Massa's legal team, Reuters, who saw the letter, mind you, this is not just hearsay, they read it. They said that Massa's legal team sent a formal 8-page, what they called a letter before claim, to Formula One chief executive Stefano Domenicali and FIA president Eddie Everywhere, or Mohammed bin Salem, as some people call him.
Was Domenicali the team principal at Ferrari then? No.
Yeah, not principal. No, but he was there.
He was there.
Wasn't he?
Okay.
Was he principal? Let's see. Jean Tot. It was Massa. Raikkonen won in 07. He may have been, Grace.
Because I think
about it.
I think that makes it more spicy, right? I like
Yeah,
that.
it does.
But like, I'm sending you a letter about something you were annoyed about, and now you could do something about it.
Yeah, you're going to be banking on Domenicali's old heartstrings there when he was super pissed off not getting the title, and the Ferrari mechanic bashing his head into the, you know,
Felipe's dad, smashing.
Yeah, Felipe's dad, all happy, went from cheers to tears. Yes. I remember that.
Yeah.
Felipe Massa, stoic young man that he was, stood on that podium in absolute tears in front of his hometown crowd. Tough. So anyway, they sent this letter. Massa was, quoting the letter, Massa was, quote, the victim of a conspiracy committed by individuals at the highest level of F1 together with the FIA and Formula One management. Simply put, Mr. Massa is the rightful 2008 drivers' champion, and F1 and FIA deliberately ignored the misconduct that cheated him out of that title, said the letter. It continues, quote, Mr. Massa is unable to fully quantify his losses at this stage, but estimates that they are likely to exceed tens of millions of euros. This amount does not cover the serious moral and reputational losses suffered by Mr. Massa. End quote. Discuss.
I mean, so that's probably, so I guess there's two ways of viewing this, right? Me as a fan viewing this, I'm still like, really? We're still talking about this? But if I was Felipe Massa, that's absolutely right. You know what I mean?
It is.
What would his life look like?
Yeah.
Choose your own adventure style if he could just go back to that, right? And
absolutely.
And change. So absolutely, what has he lost? And what
it'd be hard to
now?
quantify, but it would be millions.
Right. Yeah. For sure. So
extended contracts, may have stayed in F1 longer.
Right.
All of that.
All of that. Right. I just think that as a person who's not Felipe Massa, I'm like, why are you doing this? But if I was Felipe Massa, I'd be like, yeah, you got to do this, right? So I can see both sides of that, even though I think trying to litigate a past championship is a very kind of weird thing to do, especially so long ago. But and it's not, as much as nobody's really happy. I guess some people are happy about Abu Dhabi, but I don't want to go back over that. I don't even like bring it up, 3 years later. So I can't imagine, 10 years later, we're still talking about Hamilton and should he have had the championship. And
and for those newer to F1, and maybe as a refresher for you veterans out there.
I was going to say a refresher would be nice.
A refresher. So let me just recant what was going on in 2008 in Singapore. So if you're new at F1, back then during the race, Massa was leading the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix from pole position. When Renault driver, I must say, Nelson Piquet Jr. crashed into the wall on lap 14 of 61 laps. The crash prompted a safety car and benefited Piquet's partner, his teammate, the crafty Fernando Alonso, because Fernando had just boxed, and this allowed Fernando to then take the lead of the race while everyone else boxed, and he didn't have to box again. Unfortunately, also what happened during the time when all the cars, including Massa, dove into the pits, one thing Grace and I like to talk about all the time was where his reference Felipe Massa dragging a fuel rig all the way down the pits. Well, that's what happened. So Massa had it prompted the safety car. That benefited Alonso. Everybody stopped. Massa failed to score after a bungled pit stop in which he dragged half the refueling rig down the pit lane with him, still attached to his Ferrari. Then Piquet revealed in 2009 that he had been told to crash by Renault team bosses Flavio Briatore and Pat Simmons. That Pat Simmons, who is now leading F1's technical working group. Yes, the very one that he was banned from Formula One. Now he's leading Formula One. That guy.
Right.
They were subsequently banned. The scandal has been dubbed Crashgate. That's what it's known as. And it became one of the biggest in the sports history behind Spankgate, of course. I had to throw that in, Grace.
Ugh.
Just for you.
No.
No, never Spankgate.
No, Todd. No, never.
Oh, yeah.
No, don't.
I know. Spankgate. We're gonna have to do a deep dive on Spankgate sometime.
You and Parsley. You guys can. If you would like to go deep on that,
No, I
go
don't.
for it.
I really don't. I read his biography. I read about it. I read his version of it, at least. So.
I think I just skipped that chapter.
Yeah, right. So if Massa's legal actions were to reverse the championship, Lewis Hamilton would miss out on his very first title in 2008, and he'd be sitting on 6 titles, not 7. But I don't see that happening.
I don't either. Right.
And a lot of other people don't either. The other likely outcome could be, and this is kind of what you were talking about from your perspective and seeing both sides. Yeah. The other outcome could be compensation for lost earnings and earnings potential as a driver who failed to win the title when legitimately he probably should have, right? Yeah. Ultimately, I think it may be difficult to reverse the championship or get compensation because these legal challenges have to be done with a limited amount of time after the race. And the entire process is legally governed by the FIA Court of Appeals. And the time to challenge that decision is long gone, right? And all the teams are signatory to the FIA's process and their legal decisions, and they have to live with those, right? So the only angle I see here, Grace, and you may have one or two others, but the only angle that comes to mind is if Massa's lawyers make a case that yes, they understand that the time for contesting the outcome is gone, and they would have challenged the outcome had F1 been upfront and transparent about what they knew at the time that it was a purposeful crash, but they tried to bury the incident until the window of challenges and the classification had passed, and they tried to bury it so as not to bring the scandal to public notice and bring the sport into disrepute. Now, they would have to make that case. Otherwise, I think the FIA will say, look, 14 days after the race in 2008, that was the window. You had to put your challenge in then. You didn't. So it's done deal, right? So they've got to make a case that, well, we would have. But they're also going to have to prove, Grace, that I think that either the FIA or Formula One knew, even within those, call it 14, 30 days, whatever it is.
And held it from them.
Right. Yeah. They would have to prove that they know. And proving that the FIA or F1 knew something would be difficult unless they have emails or documents to show that they were privy to that.
Maybe old man Bernie's going to take the stand.
Maybe old man Bernie has the emails. Maybe he has the receipts.
Of course he does, right? I mean, I think that came out early on, right? It was Bernie who kind of put this little whisper in his ear or whatever the idiom is, right? So I guess it wouldn't be surprising if Bernie was somehow involved in it, and that Bernie waited until it wasn't his anymore either, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's let the, Liberty Media guys get their feet wet, get their sea legs, and then, oh, I'm an old man. Look at what I found in this accordion folder.
Yeah.
Yes, I found these emails.
What's interesting is because Massa said that he had heard that Ecclestone said in an interview that it was, they knew it, and that the championship should have went to Massa, and they knew it, and they just didn't want the scandal, and so that's what prompted this whole thing.
Right.
And just recently, the press asked Bernie, and now he's saying, oh, I don't remember that. I don't even remember doing that interview. I don't remember saying anything like that.
I'm
I
an
don't
old
even remember
man.
the interview.
I don't remember. I can't be expected to keep track of all of these
I'm
things.
an old man. I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
He's like Grandpa Simpson now.
Yeah,
Yes,
he is.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so it's kind of funny because I feel like it's him sticking the eye into Liberty Media one more time.
Oh,
Let's just
sure.
mess with your 2008 championship. Throw some drama around. Make it for Massa, who's his buddy, because Bertie has a house and his wife's Brazilian. He lives in Brazil. But, make it benefit Massa. And then what better way than to just throw Lewis Hamilton's titles at risk,
80-21 is coming.
Yeah, exactly.
There's somebody who's typed up that letter, and they're just waiting that if something happens with Massa, that letter is getting filed because
yeah. Implicate Lewis, and then oh my gosh, the scandal, So I think it's going to be really, really difficult for his legal team to prove that F1 and the FIA knew about it.
But they must think it has some legs, right?
Well, they've got to think that it does. You're right.
Because there's nothing to be gained. There's nothing but loss for Felipe Massa. If this is BS, it's always been BS, and that's all the lawyers are going to have is BS. So
I agree.
He must think it has legs. Somebody with some legal skills has said, yes, this has legs, right? Because I think all kinds of things, and it probably doesn't have any legal legs. So yeah, I don't know. Legal legs sounds like that's an at dark show, but I think that so at least like Massa and 3 lawyers think this has something to write on because they all have nothing but loss if this isn't right. They're just gonna have egg on their face.
You're right, Grace, because when it first broke, I thought, this doesn't have any legs.
Yeah.
Come on, man. It's a done and dusted deal.
Yeah, it just seemed like it seems sad because Massa is such a good guy, right?
But now that they send him this, shot across the bow, that they're going to proceed if they don't hear back from either entity within 10 days or 14 days or whatever it was, they're going forward in courts. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I don't want to be too quick to disclaim or dismiss this, because what if they do have receipts?
That's what I'm saying, they must.
They would have to show that F1 or the FIA. Now, I say they got to show that they knew it right after the race or they knew it within 14 days or whatever. I'm wrong. Technically, they would just have to show that within the 2008 season itself,
they knew
before the prize giving gala and all that they did know. And if they did know before that year's prize giving gala where they handed Lewis the title, that if they've got receipts that show that, that's an issue.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
The fact that it is still a news story. This has been around, a couple months now. If they really didn't think they had anything, I don't know why they would pursue it.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I guess now I don't want either outcome. I want neither Felipe Massa. I don't want his narrative to become this, right? If this is just Felipe Massa ends up with egg on his face, that's worse.
Yeah. I thought about that exact same thing.
But
Grace.
I don't necessarily want him to win either, so I don't really know how I feel about it.
I thought about that exact same thing. Hey, Jamie, look that up. No, I thought about the same thing. And it's funny you say that because I thought about it and I thought, here's the solution.
Okay.
Are you ready for the solution?
I'm ready.
I should be an arbiter. They should bring me in to be the arbiter for this thing because I already have the solution.
Okay.
Felipe Massa knows that it's going to be hard to go back and take Lewis's title away. It's already done deal, and it is what it is, right?
Right.
He knows that. What he really wants is the compensation.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And as you pointed out earlier, I don't know that I blame him, you know? So he wants a compensation. Formula One could hide behind the regulations, which could be absolutely true, that nope, the window's passed, the Court of Appeals, you didn't place it there. We reviewed it, and that's our decision. Our decision final.
Right.
You're signatory to that as a driver for Ferrari, and it is what it is, right? Now they could do that. But here's the compromise, people. So much of life is compromise, right?
Sure.
The compromise is, I don't know what Felipe Massa is doing right now to make a shekel, and he's wanting the money. So FIA or F1, give Felipe a job. Give him a job.
But don't let him be the guy that asks questions.
No,
after races.
not that job. No,
he was not good at that.
No, that wasn't his calling. No, not that job. Not that one. But
okay.
but another one.
Okay.
Right? You could put him head super awesome Brazilian in charge of the open wheel, put him in, as a main guy for F2, give him a job, a meaningful job where he could ply his skills, which are many, right? As a former driver, and give him a job where he could really contribute and be part of the system, make some decent cash, and be part of it. Everybody wins. Formula One avoids the scandal. Felipe Massa gets a few shekels and gets to go to all the races and get his persona out there. He's like this generation's Jackie Stewart. Every time you turn around, you're bumping into him.
You know what job they should give him?
What?
Race director. You think you know so much?
You don't know what Felipe Massa knows.
You be the race director from now on.
That's right. Felipe Massa would be
congratulations
a good race director. Yeah, there you go. So just put him in there. I don't know. He's Brazilian. He may get a little upset.
Or he learned from Ferrari and he'll just go checking. Hold on, checking.
Herbie Blash. It's Felipe. What do you think I ought to do? Yeah, there's plenty of jobs in F1 or the FIA. So just give him a job. And everything's good. Everything's fine. There you go.
Yeah.
Problem solved from my end.
Yeah, I hope something. That's the nicest outcome, I think, for everybody.
See, that's what I'm saying. So then, you didn't want him to win. You didn't want him to lose either. So this is a compromise, and everybody's fat, dumb, and happy. And who amongst the FIA or Formula One could not benefit from the mad skills and racing wisdom of Felipe Massa?
Maybe we finally get the permanent race steward, right?
Maybe. Quit dragging John Watson in. He's a Lewis Hamilton fan. That's pretty obvious. Bring in Massa. Massa's Brazilian. He doesn't have a dog in the fight with the British thing. He doesn't, he's not Dutch. He's Brazilian. Bring him in.
And Ferrari will still shoot themselves in the foot, even if Massa was on their side. So it's fine.
So
what
it's
is
fine.
Ferrari going to gain?
Right. So he'll feel like home. He'll feel like he's back in Ferrari.
That's right. Charlie. Yeah, I could just see that. Herbie, we need to use Plan H. That's not this job anymore. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Oops.
Got it. All right.
Sure.
Sorry. I was confused. All right, well, watch this space. Let's see what happens. In other legal news, this has turned into the litigious podcast, has it not?
Well, but this story was really it became a firestorm real fast.
Yeah, this thing it's kind of went from a headline to a dumpster fire overnight.
Oh, yeah. Whew.
Yeah, it really did.
Blazing inferno.
Yeah, so...
But I do think it's the players involved. When you get Zach Brown and Chip Ganassi together, what else is going to happen? But,
Yeah, somebody's bound to get a bloody nose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some child's going to get hurt in that.
Yeah, for sure.
In that
Somebody's
fight.
getting the Zoomies, pick up all the kids. Yeah, this is not...
Yeah, that's it. When Chip Ganassi gets the Zoomies, you pick up all of the fragile things. All right?
That's right.
The vase, your coffee cup, your phone...
Somebody pick up Roger Penske. Right? Everything.
Somebody pick up Roger Penske for the love of God. Somebody pick up Penske.
The most valuable thing we have.
It's the most
valuable.
Without Roger, Indy doesn't exist. Somebody pick him up.
Please hold on to Roger.
Yes. So pick up the fragile and venerable things. All right.
Yes.
The antiquities, the things we couldn't live without.
That's right.
So So this story for now. I understand with all of you F1, listeners out there, and there's some newer listeners that if I deviate even 2 degrees off center from F1, you guys send me hate mail.
Good story.
And it's like, oh my gosh. But this is more IndyCar than F1.
But we got to cover it.
We do. And there
when
is an
there's a story
F1
like
tie-in.
this, yeah.
Right? There's an F1 nuance and there's an F1 veneer over this story. It has to do with McLaren, Zach Brown, a potential F1 right.
You've heard of him,
It does
yes.
have. Yeah, we know who Zach is. Zach's a pal of ours.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you ask Zach, I don't know that he would say that, but I've interviewed him 3 or 4 times and he's good friends with Paul Charsley. They know each other.
So I think this story definitely is
It
worth
belongs here.
Yes.
It belongs in this podcast. All right. Now, having said all that, if you'll bear with me, Alex Palou had a contract with McLaren, but informed them that he'd no longer be driving for them in 2024. The problem is, Zach Brown said that the team had already paid a portion of his 2024 contract and invested millions in his development via their F1 testing program and reserve F1 driver role that he currently holds.
Right.
The idea was to keep him in a hot standby, kind of like Maverick in hot standby, right, for a potential seat at McLaren F1. Now, I'm not sure what happened or what changed Alex's mind, but to be fair, there really doesn't seem to be room at the end for Alex over at McLaren F1, if I'm honest.
Right.
I mean, you got Oscar and Lando. Nobody's going anywhere, right? And so there's no room at the end for Alex over there. And if he got a better offer, and there doesn't seem to be a real path to F1 in the immediate future, would the team bring him in, let's say, to the F1 team in 2 or 3 years when one of the drivers moves on? He would be 28 or 30 years old.
Right.
It's highly unlikely.
He ain't got time for that.
He didn't have time for that. So for Alex, he's currently leading in IndyCar. This may be his career path. It may not be F1. It could be IndyCar. So he's going to want to make the most of that, right? For his career instead of F1. So I would think that his window of opportunity is shut in F1, or at least maybe that's what he's thinking. Now, despite that, now McLaren, very quickly after, have filed a lawsuit against Alex, and team boss Zach Brown said this about that. He said, quote, "We made a significant investment in Alex Palou, looking forward to racing with him in 2024. We're placing our trust in the legal system to resolve this matter, and we'll keep our comments at that. As a team, we're turning our focus to the final races this season and on our plans for 2024, which we'll announce once we are ready or we're ready." End quote. Now, if the plot wasn't thick enough, Grace, lest you forget, Alex Palou, this isn't the first time he's been in legal trouble with the team. Right. Because just last year, he said that he was joining McLaren from Chip Ganassi Racing. He was going to go join McLaren, and Chip Ganassi sought legal proceedings that were resolved out of court, so he stayed at Ganassi. Now, I got to digging around on this thing, and generally, if it's IndyCar, you do well to go over to the Indy Star, right, newspaper, because they cover the series pretty seriously. Yeah. So the Indy Star report has some interesting commentary about this situation, but in the end, so check it out. But in the end, I suspect McLaren wants recompense for their investment in Palou more than they want to force Alex to stay at the team.
Well, I mean, nobody wants that. I mean, right? That's
no.
It's Otmar Schnafnauer all over again. Nobody wants.
That's like standing up and say, "I want to go outside." You're going to go clean. You know? Did you read the book Silo, movie Silo? No. Okay. Well, for you fans of the book series Silo, you'll understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
So nobody wants to do that. So, like Massa, I think McLaren is seeking money and not a driver. Just as Massa is seeking money and not a title at this point. And I think that it's an interesting thing. Now, having said that, let's explore this for a minute, Grace.
Yes.
Let's just extrapolate, shall we? Let's extrapolate. A team boss who's upset that their driver they had on contract dumped them and decided to go to another team, and then the team boss is very upset and says publicly that we invested millions in him, and we would like to get recompense of our investment because we really spent a lot to make his career happen.
Yes.
Who did that happen to?
So in basketball, we refer to that as the ball don't lie, right? Like, yeah, you tried to get away with that. You didn't score. Ball don't lie, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I guess, live by the threes, you die by the threes. Good job, McLaren. Yeah. Didn't
So
work
this
for you.
happened just a year ago with Oscar Piastri.
Right.
With Otmar at Alpine, very mad, saying we invested millions, we want our money back.
And
Right?
they didn't care.
And
McLaren didn't
McLaren's
care.
over there going, "Thank you, we got Oscar."
Right. That's right. That's right.
Yes. So McLaren just stuck it to Alpine last year, and Ganassi just stuck it to McLaren this
That's
year.
right. That's right.
The idea of getting money back for your investment, Plo, I don't know. Otmar and Alpine could have went after Oscar pretty hard, and whatever they did try to do, Zach was able to stave off. Whether he gave him a few quid under the table, I don't know, but there was no legal proceeding. So Zach will have known what he did or did not have to do to make Alpine, a little less indigestion about the thing.
Right.
He may not have done anything. He may have told him to go pound sand, or he may have sweetened a deal or did something. Who knows? But he'll know that. So he'll be going after Ganassi or somebody. And watch this space. Very interesting story.
I mean, absolutely. So I think anytime this kind of whether it was with Oscar or whether here it is with Alex Palou, I think this is always an interesting, how the contracts work out. And because of course, right, you don't want a petulant child as your driver. That's going to be worse, right? So even if in the court of law they were like, oh yeah, Alex goes to McLaren, I don't want him, right? Like that's not going to help anybody. So he's going to Chip, but I just think how you sort out everything else, that's what's going to be interesting, right?
It is, and it's not like we haven't had drivers jump ship before or use a performance clause in contract and walk away or break a contract. That's happened before, or a team wants a driver
though.
and the team pays big money for the driver to break the contract. I mean, there's a lot of this has gone on in Formula One over the years. But this is pretty interesting for two young guys like this to both, give them the middles to the team and do something else. For Oscar's sake, boy, hindsight's 2020, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Totally made the right call going to McLaren.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That was sage advice, Mr. Weber. Sage advice you gave him.
I'm just glad somebody out there has been watching this sport.
Yeah.
Alpine, really?
I
When has
know.
Renault ever been the answer? Ever? Even if you only watch Drive to Survive.
2005, 2006.
Yeah, that was it. That was the last time.
And then the Williams era, yeah. But when they were a works team, yes.
It was just like,
I know.
that's never a good option. That's never been a good option. So
Well, it's interesting in the sense that that was totally the right call. And there's something telling me that for Alex Palou, it's absolutely the right call.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're going to get a seat unless Lando, and I don't think it's going to be Oscar. I think Oscar's going to be there. Lando's the one you got to watch because he is hot property right now. He's the real deal. And he may have performance clause. He could walk, and then there would be a seat open. But Alex
where
would
is he
know
gonna-
the details of that.
Oh, right.
And he would know what his real legitimate chances of getting a seat there were versus getting a bigger salary and a bigger opportunity in IndyCar to where he could really try to dominate that series and make that his career.
Right. And stick with Chip and
Yeah.
that's your
You
career
could
now.
be with worse teams. Chip has a
Exactly.
tendency to win.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good at what he does.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Pittsburgh native Chip Ganassi. He knows what
That's
he's
right.
doing.
He
So
does
stick
know.
with him. But yeah, I think the other thing too is that it's not like the order is, Lando Norris, Oscar, Alex Palou. Like we don't know how many Alex Palou there are between.
Right.
Which is, I think, the point you're making, that even if Lando Norris tomorrow was like, I'm out, I'm going to Red Bull or whatever, because I don't know where he would go, but wherever he goes, I don't know that they're going to be like, oh, Alex, here's your chance, right? It's not like Mick Schumacher at Mercedes, which seems to be much more likely that he would get some seat time, but I don't know. I don't know that Alex Palou is just going to be like, and then like you said, you can't wait till you're 30.
No.
I mean, everybody's like, Alonso's 40, and it's like, yo, old man time, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, Lewis is what, 36, 37, 30, in that range. Everybody's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, he's ancient. Somebody get him a walker with tennis balls on their legs, you know?
yes, in this sport, so I think that, I just think you have to go with the guaranteed money, even if IndyCar isn't what you wanted Formula One. And there are plenty of people in IndyCar that he could talk to. There are plenty of people that are in that sport that were aiming for Formula One and didn't get there for whatever reason.
And there's a couple of
IndyCar.
couple on that grid that came from Roman Grosjean and the Swede. Right?
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I would always like. Before you ever take a job, if you know somebody who works it, talk to them. What is their day-to-day like?
Yeah.
What is management like? Like, you're right. You could talk to Roman Grosjean one day. You could talk to Scott Dixon or
Marcus Ericsson
or somebody the next day, and
kind
of get all sides of that, like Formula One versus IndyCar perspective, and make a decision. Or even Rossi, that's kind of been yanked around both series.
Yeah. He has. Yeah, he has.
So.
Yeah, no, I think it's the right decision, look, go ahead.
Or become friends with Michael Andretti, just in case.
Why not? Why wouldn't you be friends with Michael Andretti?
Well, I have a lot of reasons why I wouldn't be friends with Michael Andretti.
You're not a fan, but
maybe, Alex, I'm just saying.
I hung out with his dad and ate a plum with his dad, and we talked about Le Mans.
His dad is not his son. I love Mario, not the same.
I said hi to Michael. But we didn't chat.
You?
No, he kind of nodded, but we didn't chat. But Mario and I did.
I don't chat with anybody.
Yeah,
exactly.
we were eating a plum. He had plums, and we ate a plum, and we sat there and we talked about Le Mans. And when he returned to racing and damn near crashed down Mulsanne, and he said that was the most scared he's ever been in his life. I've told that story before, but anyway. So he was done with racing after that. Anyway, all right, let's do some Alvins Cats. Get to the show!
This is the show!
All right, Grace.
Yo,
what do you got for us?
This is the best part of the show,
it's
people.
Fun.
What are you... Whatever.
It's fun.
I just think... Yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of crazy, the idea of, like, how bad does something have to be for Mario and Jetty to be like, and I'm done, right? Like, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, he said it scared the hell out of him.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, well, on a lighter topic.
On a lighter note,
Alex Palou, if you're listening, I'm just saying that could be an option.
Yeah.
And then you could just wave at Zach, right? Like in the parade, like in the driver's parade. Hey, Zach. Hey, Zach. How's it going?
Zach would be waving at you. Hey.
Yeah, I don't think he'd have that many fingers up that he'd be waving, but yeah, same idea.
Zach's hanging in there. I got a lot of respect for Zach. He pretty much threw Christian Horner under the bus over the whole catering overspend thing when somebody leaked the letter that Zach sent the FIA. Christian waylaid him in that press conference, and Zach sat there and took it like a man and whatever and moved on, and I would say he's navigating the Piranha Club very well for a new guy. Yeah,
he's doing just
really
fine.
Well. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Alvins Cats. Sorry to segue. Go ahead.
No. It's the summer break. It's all about segues. I don't know. This podcast it just rides on segues, people.
This podcast brought to you by Segway.
Yes. Anyway, so Alvins Cats. So first is a little music, as we've been talking in the off season.
Yeah, me too.
Right? So I recently discovered yet a new drummer on YouTube, which stop what you're doing right now, people. You need to be watching this because I swear, mind blown. So the guy's name is El Pistaro Cibriano.
Oh, he's incredible.
There you go. So you already know who I'm talking about. All right.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Incredible drummer.
Nuts, people. I'm telling you, like, I don't know. Like, I can't stop watching it. And then he does crazy, and he looks right at the camera and flips the stick. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
punches the stick in the air as he's flipping it. And do you like the bass triplets? But he's got the pedal that goes back and forth, and his bass triplets. So somebody else
the triplets are amazing.
Somebody will pick like some shredder song where the drums is just nothing but double bass.
Yeah.
And the BPM must be 180, right? And he's all playing it with one hand while he's drinking a cup of coffee.
It's crazy. Yeah, all right. Like he was playing
his
System of a
wrist
Down. I'm
speed.
I know.
Can you imagine how insane his paradiddles are?
I cannot. I can't
Amazing.
even play it like, down like 7 notches.
I know.
mean, it was crazy. So if you guys are bored, check this guy. This is amazing.
Read his name again.
Oh, you just want to see if I can pronounce it.
I do.
Alex Palou Cibriano.
There you go. Yeah. If you go to
great.
TikTok and just put an awesome drummer, he'll pop up. He's got a beard.
Yes.
He wears a hat, a ball cap. Yeah. You'll find him.
And you'll get 2 seconds in a video and go, this is the person they were talking about.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He is amazing.
So, and he's all over YouTube. If I'm not on TikTok, that just seems like a black hole I'm trying to stay out of.
Yeah. No, when I first saw him on TikTok, I was like, wow, that's impressive. It's like the first time I heard Guthrie Govan play, and I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Or Julian Lodge, it's just like, oh my gosh.
Not even on the same plane with the rest of us, right? Like
no.
Somewhere different. So check them out. Amazing. Okay. So then keeping with the music theme.
Yes.
So people who are friends with you on Facebook, I'm sure there are some listeners that are not. Every morning, right? You always post a lovely picture from your walk with the dogs and the music you happen to be listening to, right?
Yes.
So fair enough. A lot of the times I'm like, I don't know who this is, right? Or maybe I've heard of that, or I don't know. But today you posted In Excess. I'm like, oh, I know this album, right? I listened to it, and so I was very excited until it was the 40th anniversary. I posted, I did not need that part out loud.
I know.
40th anniversary.
I know.
I'm not okay with that. Like,
I know. I'm not okay with it because I bought it the day it came out. I was like, oh.
I know mentally, right? It came out in the 80s. Like, of course.
82.
Yeah. I was like, of course I know mentally I can do math that it's 40 years, but I didn't need that posted. That it was a 40-year deluxe anniversary. So, but great album.
I know. It is. Shabu Shaba first.
Yeah. Shabu Shaba. And very good. It was a couple albums before Kick and X. Which were I never remember which one is first. They both kind of jumble in my brain. Yeah.
And I love those, no doubt about it. But Shabu Shaba is kind of my favorite.
It's great. Yes. Yeah. I think it's a great album. And then, So anyway, but 40 years ago, I didn't need to know.
I know. So I always take a walk in the mornings, and I always take pictures of the forest and the Ozark Mountains out here.
Yeah.
And but I always put what soundtrack, the soundtrack for the walk on Dawn Patrol. And I tweet some of them too, but I always put the soundtrack, and it's always interesting to get, like sometimes when I'm listening to something I think is relatively obscure, and then someone will say, "Oh my gosh, I love that album!" It's so cool. It's the power of music. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. So I just thought that was great. I was like, "Wow, finally, what I know." Oh,
yeah. And see, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have pegged you as an NXS fan and Shabu Shaba. Yeah, that's great.
It's great. Well,
cool.
I was a kid of the 90s. So, just like everything, you start at one spot, you start at Kick and X, and then you
go back.
Go either way, right? So, so In Excess, it's some great stuff there. Speaking of, drummers. So, and then to keep the, I don't know, when you get old, you don't feel old, but other things remind you that you're old, like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel old, but 40th anniversary. So we had some friends had us over for lunch, and so I was picking up some beer, but I used the self-checkout, which means that the cashier had to come over, right, and look at my ID and put in their code so that I could buy the beer.
Yeah.
She looks at my driver's license real quick and puts in her code, and I was like, wow, that was quick. She goes, oh, I just looked for the 19. I just looked for the 19. That's
yes,
right.
That's
Anybody
right.
that has a birthday 19 something can buy
You're
beer.
Old. Yeah.
I was like, not okay with that. And so
that just sent shivers down my spine.
Thankfully, she was at least my age.
I hadn't
older.
done that math yet. You're right.
Me neither. So I'm just there in the grocery store, like, oh my god, oh my god, she's right. And then she goes, yeah. And then she tells me her mom is a high school teacher, and all the kids refer to that as the 1900s.
The 1900s.
She's like, isn't that gross? I'm like, that's the worst thing I've heard all day. Good thing I'm buying beer, right? Like, I got to go drown my sorrows. The 1900s. Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's funny. Well, funny. Another funny thing, whether on Twitter or X, or now that's I guess it's called, and then Facebook. Nobody's on Facebook, but if you are, if you go into like the comment, like you're going to make a comment or whatever, but instead type in the gift bar, type in the year you're born, and just see what comes up. It's pretty funny. It's like,
Okay, I'm going to do that.
whoa. I typed mine in, and it came up, and one of the images was the abominable snowman from that Rankin Bass show.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's terrible.
No.
It's terrible.
All right, I'm going to try that. As soon as the show is over, I'm trying that.
Try it. Yeah.
I already don't feel old enough that you just have to look for the 19.
Yeah, you
on
and
my
Flip
driver's
should do
license.
that, and then post whatever gifts come up there.
Oh, my
It'll be
goodness.
funny. You'll probably be like Mr. Green Jeans, and
No, I don't.
No,
I
that
mean,
was
I'm the
before
late
you.
70s. Yeah.
yeah, you're late 70s. Yeah, that's right, late 70s. But he had a Barney.
Oh, I think that's
90s.
90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd have. No, you were late 70s.
Yeah.
You didn't have anything.
Hey, problem solved. It'll just be
You had
blank.
nothing. You didn't have
It'll be like-
Electric Coast, Sesame Street,
Put in
New Zoo
another year.
Review, New Zoo Review.
Okay. We'll see.
No,
Oh
you're
my
like, I don't
gosh.
even know what that is.
I don't, but
Okay.
I mean, the year you were born doesn't mean you remember things from then.
No,
so-
you wouldn't. Well, I mean,
Right.
somebody. Well, Paul does.
Yes.
All
Flip
right.
but-
You ready for
Oh,
some
wait.
headlines? Oh, you have one more?
Almost.
Yeah.
I
All right.
do.
Hit
So
me.
sorry. Segue. I also wanted to segue that. So we just got out of the summer break for MotoGP,
Mm-hmm.
and they were at the A1 ring this weekend. Great set of
Pecco.
races. Yeah, check it out. And once again, they don't seem to have any problem showing you like the mid-pack races. Like we
Yeah.
don't even pay attention to we ignored Pecco, we ignored Brad Binder, whatever. We didn't care. We just watched the
Right.
middle of the race. Doesn't seem so hard, Formula One, and yet
No.
you can't
And Formula One is
ever.
like, oh, we're focused on
We're just watching the Red Bull go around in a
Red
circle.
Bull or maybe Fernando, but then we don't see anything from, the McLarens or the Alpines or, none of it.
Not a thing. So I don't understand that. But I did want to mention that breaking news, your boy Joanne Zarco.
Oh, wait. This just in. Grace, fill us in on MotoGP.
Yeah. So your boy Joanne Zarco might be heading to Honda. That seems like a really
I saw that.
that's an interesting.
It's an interesting
yeah.
pickup.
Yeah. So well, everybody's waiting for Bezzecchi to make his decision about where he's going to go, and then all the other chips will fall. But Zarco to Honda, I thought
Who knew?
he wants to go. It's not punishment. He voluntarily wants to go to Honda.
I love Honda bikes, man. I grew up on Honda motors. I mean, when I was a kid, I had an XR75. Loved that motorcycle. Man, I rode that every single day of summer for years. And love that bike.
I'm sure Mark Marquez felt that way at one point too, but
I'm sure he
not
did,
this
but
year.
not this
where,
year.
where he rode around in 17th. I don't
Yeah,
think
right,
this is the
right,
year he
right,
feels that. But
Right. Of course, I wasn't going for world titles like Mark Marquez.
no, right. So I just thought, I was like, so he's going to he wants to go and like help them not be the suck anymore. So
Well, somebody had to do that with Ducati, and
Yeah.
Casey Stoner was the guy that finally
That's
turned
right.
it around.
and now they're winning everything. So
Yeah, and
maybe.
now they're winning everything. So maybe.
Although I don't know, like I feel like I'm trying to think of a Formula One comparison. Like Casey Stoner is like crazy talent, right? And I don't think anybody thinks Joanne Zarco and thinks crazy talent.
No, they don't think that.
I thought this year he might get the championship, as you had pointed out, just because he's the only man standing.
Yeah, right. Everybody's injured.
Yeah. So, but
Crazy.
that that didn't quite happen. So
No.
anyway, keep
All
on
right.
MotoGP, even though Formula One is coming back from their summer break.
Yes, they are.
The silly season's pretty good over there, unlike over
Yeah,
here.
yeah, it is. All right, my no shed headlines. Here we go. First up, quote, Ferrari bid to poach Red Bull boss after signing Lewis Hamilton ally with connection. Now,
Wait a minute. Wait, there are too many things in that sentence to follow.
Exactly. This story has absolutely nothing to do with Lewis Hamilton.
Oh,
It's about Loic Serra, who was poached from Mercedes to join Ferrari by Fred Vasseur. And he's going to start with Ferrari, but he can't, and for another 16 months. And he has a very strong relationship with a peer of his, the technical director at Red Bull. And the thought that Ferrari could use that relationship, because they're buddies, to poach the Red Bull technical director as well. That's what that story is about. So you have a guy at Mercedes, Loic Serra, who's really, really tight buddies. They're really besties with the technical director at Red Bull. And the story is that Fred may try to use the Loic relationship with the technical director of Red Bull to maybe lure him over to Ferrari as well. That's the story. Here's the headline again. Ferrari bid to poach Red Bull boss after signing Lewis Hamilton ally with connection. I have to do a much, much better job clickbaiting headlines. I am terrible at it. Because if I could get Lewis Hamilton in every headline I do, whether it has something to do with him, you know, primary, secondary, tertiary, it doesn't matter. It's just so bad.
That headline needed a lot of string for me to be able to follow what was going on there.
I know.
Also, I'm sure I mentioned this here, but I want to be so important at a job that I have to go on a gardening leave for 16 months. That's how much I know.
I know. That's how much of Newey's things I have in my head.
Like how valuable, how smart, what is in that Rolodex of your head? 16 months of gardening leave.
They got to put you on ice for 16 months.
Man. Me, it would be like 2 days. We found somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Wow.
They'd have me. Yeah, right. Let's see. Next headline. Here we go. Quote, Brown, F1 wide open if Red Bull had two Perez's, end quote. Well, okay.
What?
Yeah, of course. But that's why they pay Max the big bucks, because he's a singular talent, Zach.
Wait, is this... I mean, the joke from last podcast was the no shitbags. Ugh. I feel like that fit right here, too. Like, what? Ooh.
It does. Ooh. Yeah, it's like totally. I was like, well, okay, yeah. Red Bull, F1 would be completely wide open if Red Bull had two Logan Sargents right now, two rookies.
Right. Like, yeah. I feel like somebody is writing these headlines using like that magnetic poetry on a refrigerator.
Yes, on a refrigerator, moving the magnets around.
Or apples for apples or something like this just seems like some...
Right.
You're right. If they had two Logan Sargents, this would be wide open.
It'd be wide open.
Anything.
Yeah, it would be. Two Yukis. Yeah, you're right.
Two Yukis would be fun. But
it'd be fun. But anyway, so yeah. Okay. Yeah, agreed. Next headline. Quote, F1 star admits concern as rumors suggest he will follow Nick DeVries off the grid. End quote. It's talking about Logan Sargent. Why not just say Logan Sargent? F1 star. Now, there's some people out there that would say you're really taking liberties with the whole F1 star. Is Logan an F1 star, or is he an F1 driver, right? To his fans, he's a star, right? Maybe. I don't know.
To me, you're a star, but that doesn't mean that it would be somebody's headline.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And why would you say an F1 star concern as rumors suggest? And you name Nick DeVries. That's what's funny.
That's why I'm trying to figure out, like, how does...
Yeah.
Oh, another rookie.
Right. And you say, an F1 star is concerned he may follow the path of Nick DeVries out of it. It's like, okay, well, you can even say Logan Sargent has concerns that he may follow Nick DeVries. Then you get both names, a good SEO lesson there. There you go.
What? He's not.
I don't know.
I don't understand. Like, there's no part of Williams, especially.
Well, there is a lot of talk that Mick Schumacher's in line to take his job next year.
Next year?
Yes.
Not in the middle of this year.
I think that would be a really aggressive move for James Vowles to make, given that he just recently said he's not concerned about Williams' performance this year or even next year.
nobody would do that except for Red Bull and its affiliates, right? This is not normal, people. Those of you who have only been here since Red Bull's here, this is not normal. This is Red Bull weirdness that no other team does. Right?
Only AlphaTauri would do it.
I just think that Logan Sargent is okay.
Yeah.
He can take a deep, and I think he's been doing well. James Val's been taking well of him, and there's no, I think there's a difference between speaking well of and speaking neutral.
Yeah.
Like sometimes neutral is bad, right?
Yes, yes.
And I think for a rookie, Logan Sargent is doing well. It just doesn't seem like, but he's not. It's not going to happen. Even if he was terrible, even if he was the worst idea, even if he was the next version of Pastor Maldonado, Williams
That's
isn't
strange. I wonder what's causing all the accidents.
Although he has a race win, please don't put that in the comments, right? That's right. He does have a race win, but nonetheless, he could be the next Pastor Maldonado. Williams isn't going to drop him at any point in the season because they're not crazy.
Right.
Bring the car back then, please, Pastor.
Yes.
So Logan isn't worried.
Relax.
What quote? I wonder how they like the string they use to come up with this.
I don't know, man. These headlines are just out of control. And I read them and I realize I'm just so bad at headline writing because this is all written specifically for the algorithm. That's why they sound so strange, because they're jamming every keyword or key phrase in they can, So and to me, it's just pointless. I get it. There was a time when you would go to Google and put in F1 podcast or Formula 1 podcast, and we'd be on the first page of the search. I mean, we're so far buried on the search now because I didn't play the game and the whole, SEO game and keyword game, and that's my fault. But, but that's what all these headlines sound so weird, because they're all just, like you said, they're like SEO magnets on a fridge, and they've just put them all together and made some marginally intelligent, phrase. It's bizarre. So
I feel like it's like when you look up something on Amazon, right? And it's just like it comes under, you're looking for a pillow, and it comes under bedding, kids bedding, your living room. You're like it just comes under face paint. It comes under 20 categories, and you're like, I want a pillow. How is that associated with face paint? Who knows?
I don't know.
It's one of the search terms, right?
It is, yeah. And then finally, this one, quote, F1 superstar goes undercover and dresses up as the Simpsons Duff Man at cycling race. How about that?
First of all, I like that this is Valtteri Bottas as if he's Kimi Räikkönen. Kimi Räikkönen!
Yeah, right.
Is the one that, goes undercover in races. I'm pretty sure we all knew it was Bottas, and it's okay.
Yeah, we saw the mullet and the mustache.
Yeah, but it was great. I loved it. This was such a great PR, and I love this. Again, I love bucket hat Bottas. I love he's just here for the vibes. If this guy existed at Mercedes, it would have been great. I mean, I don't think he could have. I don't think it would have worked for him, but I love him. I love him now.
I love the fact that he's starting to look, the longer the mullet and the longer the mustache, he's dangerously close to looking like a member of the Eagles from the 1970s, and I like that. That's a good look for him. So
put that in a search term.
That's right. All right. Well, that does it for this podcast. That's what we think about the news. But let us know what you think about the news. You can do that by going to theparcfermé.com and sharing your opinion. Just do it with decorum and civility as always. No personal attacks. If you like the podcast, you can go over to your favorite podcast player and leave us a good review. Give us some love over there. We'd appreciate it. And a huge, huge thank you to our Patreon supporters who we could not and would not be able to do this podcast if it weren't for them. So if you're not a Patreon supporter, you can easily become one by going to theparcfermé.com. On the right-hand side, it says of the website, it says support us. You can do it PayPal or Patreon, whatever you want to do. And if you don't want to be a supporter, we'll find one and pat them on the back and tell them thank you for supporting us, because we couldn't do this without you. So, all right. Until next week, when Paul, if I can find him, if I can get him off of the IMSA circuit, we'll find out. We'll be back to review the Grand Prix. And until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camera, saying so long, Grace.
See you in a couple weeks.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.